Hello and welcome back to part 4 of this exclusive video tutorial series from BlenderCookie.com on modeling the M4 assault rifle. Having picked up where we just left off on the iron sights, we're going to go in and make one small adjustment that a user actually pointed out that I forgot a piece on the iron sights, and that is the central post here. And then we're also going to move on and model the remaining of the barrel. So starting out with the post on this, let's just hit tab to go into edit mode. And basically what we want is a small circular plate right here extending directly up from this, and then have a single small beam that comes straight up about to right here. And let's go ahead, and what we'll do, let's go ahead and select this vertex right here, which is about in the center of this. We're going to hit Shift S, cursor to selected. Let's hit 7 to go into our top view. We can hit period to zoom to our selection. Now let's go ahead and hit Shift A, add mesh and circle. On the circle, let's go and hit F6, and let's take it down to, we really don't need any more than 6 vertices since we're using a subdivision surface modifier. Since it's not rotated perfectly in line with the center, because you gotta remember that we have a mirror modifier on, let's go ahead and rotate this from top view. We can just hit R and then type in 15 for 15 degrees, although we actually want to do this negative 15 degrees so that we have this this vertex lined right up. And let's hit S and then just scale it right down. And we'll scale down to about right there. And then let's go ahead and we'll just hit E to extrude, take it up just a little bit, then hit E to extrude again. Scaling towards the individual center, we'll scale in again. And then let's finally scale in one more time to be about right there. And then we'll hit E to extrude, take it straight up, take it up to about there, hit E to extrude, cap it off, and then we'll finally hit E to extrude once more, and then hit W and merge at center. Excuse me. Now what we want to do is to go ahead and, now that we have the circular form created, we can just select the back side of it, hit X and delete vertices. Now we want to go in and apply some perimeter edge loops, such as hitting Control R here, taking it straight down to sharpen that up. We'll go ahead and take this edge loop and let's hit Control E and we'll edge slide it right out. We want to go out to about right there, just make that nice and sharp. And then let's go ahead and just take this down a little bit further, select everything, W and, or not W, remove doubles, we want to hit W and shade smooth. Okay, now let's also go ahead and add an edge loop and slide that in just a little bit like that. Okay, there we go. So that gives us the central post there, and maybe that's a little bit tall right now. So let's go ahead and take it down. We'll take it down to about right there. Should be pretty good. And now I noticed that I removed a few duplicate vertices, so I was just checking to see if there are any main pieces that I removed, and everything looks good, so we're not going to worry about it. Seems maybe I did have some actual duplicates in there that I didn't want, so that's all good. And now we're going to go ahead and move on to the barrel. So on the barrel here, we're going to start out by, again, separating it out. So we'll just select it, hit P, and separate the selection. Let's go ahead and select it and hit Control-Alt-Shift-C, or Control-Alt-Shift-C to origin to the geometry. Recenter it there. Now let's go ahead and hit Tab to go into edit mode. And what I first want to do is add in these couple areas, like this one here. Again, this is where I recommend you use some of the other references, because we can't really see it in this reference just because it's kind of blurry, although we can see it in some of the other ones that I provided. But we want to add a nice kind of angle on this within a small ridge right about here. Then it'll come out, there'll be a sharp ridge here like we've got it, and then we can bring this out, and this will actually be a much more subtle ridge, and then this will be, again, the opposite of that, and then we'll come out here to put the holes in the end of the barrel and the grooves right here. So first, let's Alt-right click to select this edge here. Actually, we want to select the interior one. We're going to hit G and X, and let's just pull it out just a little bit like that. And then we can go ahead and hit Control-R. We'll add in an edge loop right here, and we're going to scale it all the way down such that it's directly on top of the other loop. And then we can just hit S to scale it out, and that will give us that ridge there that we want to create, just like that. Now let's go ahead, before we go, well no, we won't worry about it just yet. But let's go ahead and now go over here, and I want to select this loop, and we're going to hit S and Shift X to scale along the Y and the Z axis only, and we're going to take it out just about like that, so it's not quite so strong. Somewhere around there. That ought to be just fine. And then we're going to add in this white band. So we'll add this right about here. Then we'll add another edge loop right next to it. And then we're going to select this loop, and we're going to hit E to extrude, right click, and then we'll hit S and Shift X. So we only scale along the Z and the Y axis. Then if we hold down Control, we can snap to this vertex to just scale it right down perfectly. And that will give us that little seam there. And then we want to go ahead and add in these two grooves. And so I'm first just going to add in a loop right about here where it'll be just about the total distance there. And then I'm just going to go ahead and add in 4 edge loops by hitting Control R once more. Let's add those in. And then, actually, we don't want to do that. We want to just add in we want to add in 3 loops this way, because then we have one here and one here. Now all we need to do is, once more, we'll select this side, hit E to extrude, right click, and then S and Shift X, and we'll go ahead and scale this down, but we're going to take it a little deeper than the other one. We're going to take it down to about right there. Should be just about right. And actually, let's go ahead and hit Control Z and undo that, and we'll hit S and Shift X, and let's just snap right into there. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll go and do the same thing here, so we'll hit E to extrude, right click, then S and Shift X, and then we're just going to snap right to one of these vertices if we can grab it. Sometimes you have to zoom in to get a little bit more accurate in order to snap correctly. Now currently these are both pretty wide. We don't want them nearly that wide, so we're just select each one, and we're going to hit S, X, and let's just hit 0.5 to take it up to about half the width. We'll do the same thing here, S and 0.5 on our number pad, and remember to hit X to snap it to the X axis. And that looks pretty good just like that. Notice this middle piece is slightly wider than each of the grooves, and that's right, just like we want it. And we're going to go ahead and on this piece, just looking at the reference again, we're going to take it out a little bit more like this. And then let's select this edge loop here, the outside one, and we're going to go ahead and scale it down just a bit like that. So it's kind of a, almost like a coupling between the two, just raising up just a little there. All right, and actually I'm going to do one more thing, and I'm going to go ahead and add in one more edge loop, take it all the way into the edge, and then take it back along the x-axis right about like that. So we have a nice solid edge here and a solid edge there. Now before we go any further, we're going to go and add in our subdivision surface modifier. So we'll hit Tab, and then a quick shortcut to do this. Remember, since I'm in maximize mode right now, so I just have my one viewport, which you can do by hitting Shift Space. Rather than having to exit that and going over to the modifiers panel, choosing the modifier, I can just hit either Control 1, 2, 3, 4, or even all the way up to 5, and quickly add in a subsurf modifier at that level. So if I hit Control 2, it'll add one in at level 2. And so this is a very quick and handy method. Since it's a modifier that we use all the time, this works really great. So now I'll go ahead and go back in edit mode, select everything, W, and shade smooth. And then we need to go ahead and start adding in our extra edge loops to sharpen this up. I mean, we could leave the barrel like this, but I'm going to recommend that we don't. So let's add in first an edge loop right over here. We'll snap it up to right about there. We'll add one right here. Add one here. We're just going to go through all the main spots and add in an edge loop. And you notice on some of these areas, I like to just add in 2 edge loops at a time, and then just scale along the x-axis so I get perfectly even spacing between the two. This is particularly helpful if you're going to be adding it on both sides anyway, then it works really well. And it also saves you a couple steps. And so you can see very quickly I can just get really nice sharp loops with very little effort. Maybe some of these I'll take out a little bit further, make them just a little bit sharper. And there we go. That's starting to look really good. This section here, though, I'm going to go ahead and scale down just a little bit. So I'm going to take this, and once more, I'm going to hit S and Shift X and take it in just a little bit to be about like there. There we go. I think that looks pretty good. And this right now is definitely way too big, and so I'm going to take it as well. I'm going to select each one of these loops. That looks good. And we're going to go ahead and hit S, Shift X, snap to there. And that looks to be a little bit extreme right now, so we're going to take these areas here, S and Shift X, and we're just going to scale up to be about like that. And then these ones, I'm just going to go ahead and remove this edge loop first, and then I'll take this and we'll scale it right down there. There we go. That looks a lot better. Not quite as drastic as it was before. Go in here, I'm going to add in an edge loop right in there. And since this is so small, I'm not going to worry about that, although I'll bring this one a little bit closer there. And then I want to add one in on each of these. Although on these, since they're all the same, I'm just going to add one in the center of each one. And then I'll select them all. And again, I'm going to use S and Shift X to scale them out just like that. Sometimes when you're working with perfectly circular pieces, it's actually a lot easier to use your scale tool rather than the edge slide, as edge slide can be really a little jumpy and sometimes just doesn't work nearly as cleanly as you would think or like it to. And so by using your scale, it actually works very easily and effectively. So now I want to go in and we're first going to extend the barrel a little bit. I'm also going to go ahead and turn on my optimal display so we can really see what we're doing. And let's first add in our ridge here. So we're going to select this, take it over just a little bit, and we're going to extrude, scale it up just a touch, extrude again, and then we're going to take this out about right there. Looks about right. We'll take it in, scale it in, and then we'll go ahead and just leave that just like that for the time being. Okay, and maybe I'll add in a loop right there just to sharpen that up. Okay, so now I want to add in the grooves right here. And the way that'll be done is, let's see, we can see that there is a total of 5 of them on here. You can't see in this, but we can see it in our other references. So if we go into face mode, we can see that there's going to be one basically on each side, or 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They don't go all the way down, or actually they go about down to the center. If we select, let's see how I want to do this. Or actually, maybe there's just 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me just look through some of my references real quick to decide on this. And no, it looks like there is indeed 5. Yeah, okay, we've got 5 slots. And so what I actually want to do is on this part of the barrel, we're going to go ahead and switch back into vertex mode, and we're actually going to delete what we've done here. So we're going to select this, hit X, and delete faces. I'm going to take this, extrude it back out a little bit, Shift S and cursor to selected. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to add in a second piece for this barrel. We're going to Shift A, circle, F6. We're going to go ahead and align it to the view. And let's go ahead and do, on these ones we've got 12 vertices. So let's go ahead and do, let's try 16 real quick, and then we'll scale this down. And if we do that, then we can see that we can add in one here, 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 and here. And so that'll work perfectly. We just need to go ahead and rotate this 15 degrees, or not 15, let's switch into vertex mode, rotate this down, Control Tab. We want to rotate this about like this, okay? So now we can add one here, or let's see. There we go. So this will be each one of our slides. Okay, go back into Vertex Mode, and now let's go ahead and select this. We're going to go ahead and scale it right down to the vertex. We'll scale it down to there, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take it. Well, let's see. We don't have to worry about them lining up, so that's fine. So let's hit E to extrude. We're going to scale it up. We'll scale it up to here. E to extrude. Take this way out, about the length of the barrel. Then we'll go ahead and add in some of our loops. Another one here. Take one out to be about right there. Maybe bring this out a little bit more. So you can select these, E to extrude, right click, S and Shift X. Scale it down just a little bit. Add in another loop. Select everything, W and shade smooth. Add in a loop right here. And another one here. There we go. And we'll add one right there. Again, I'm using scale rather than edge slide just because it works a lot more effectively. We'll take that in just a little bit past that. Okay, so now what we'll do is we're going to go into face mode. We're going to select this face, this face, this face, this face, and this face. So I'm doing every other one. And then let's go ahead. Actually, before we do that, you'll notice that on our reference here, well, you can't really see it. Let me go ahead and pull over one of our regular ones so that we can actually see this. Let me just find the good one, and we can see it maybe on. Here we are. So on this reference here, we can see kind of the shape that we're going for right here, and we want to get this kind of angled in part here where it's more geometrical, and then on the other side it's a little more rounded, and so that's what we want to try and get. And it actually cuts into this ridge here. And so what we need to do is we actually want to go ahead and remove this ridge. That was my mistake, and we'll add that after the fact. I will go ahead and extrude this out though to give us something to ensure that we cut away from this. And now we're going to go ahead and add in 2 edge loops, which will then just scale out about like this, about where those angles start. And then let's go ahead and add in one more for each one of these, or just one more for this side, which will help give us that sharp edge. And now actually looking at this is going to come all the way under this edge. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and separate this out. So we'll delete that edge loop that we just added. We'll select this, this, and this, and we're going to hit Y to split it, and then pull it in just slightly along the x-axis so it separates out from there. And now what we'll do is, let's just go ahead and hide this, hit Control-Tab, face mode, and we're going to select this, this, and this, and we'll do this for each one of these. And that should give us a total of 5 selected, which it does. And so we're going to go ahead and hit E to extrude, right click, and then let's go ahead, actually we're going to undo that, because what we want to do first is select this, hit Shift S and cursor to selected, and then we can go ahead and select these again. Make it slightly faster by selecting it with our box select, and we're going to hit period to scale towards the cursor, hit E to extrude, right click, S and Shift X, and scale in just a little bit, about like that. Let's go ahead and hit X, excuse me. And actually we're not going to delete the faces just yet, because what we want to do is make these all nice and sharp first. So let's select this face, and we're going to go ahead and scale it. Let's scale towards the individual center. Let's check if our normals work well. So we're going to switch this over to normal using the manipulators and scale. And now what we want to do is scale along the local y-axis. So we can hit S and YY to 0.5, and that will just scale it directly along the the local x or the local y. Now we'll do the same thing here. So s, y, 0.5. And we'll do that on each one of these. By double tapping the y or x or z, you scale to the local axis of your choice. So if we hit s, x, x, you scale to the local x versus the global x. Okay, and then what this will allow us to do is to go ahead and now add in an edge loop right here, just like this, to sharpen that up. And then another one right here, and that immediately sharpens up those edges. I'm going to go ahead and delete this one here, because then what I'll do is I'll just select this one and I'll extrude it back like that. Now this one here, maybe we want to not slide quite so much. Take that back just a little bit. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and first we're going to pull these back in a bit like that to ensure that it goes right into there. We'll hit Control Space to turn off our manipulators. And something. Okay, now I'm going to go in and I'm going to add in an edge loop along each one of these, just like this, right up to the surface. And that will sharpen those up really nicely. Now we can go ahead and select each one of those, and we're going to delete the faces. Select these, and tentatively select these. There we go, that selects all of them, minus that face there, and that face there. And we'll hit X and delete faces. Okay, so that creates those sections there. But now I need to go ahead, hit Control Tab, go into Vertex Mode, and I need to add in this loop here. Or well, actually, apologies for jumping back and forth, but this is basically the workflow of something like this, where you're not completely sure on how you want to do something, so you kind of jump back and forth. And so I need another edge loop in here if I'm going to cut this in to this ridge, which I'm going to extrude. So I'm going to take these in, and then I'm going to go ahead and scale these once more along the local y-axis. I'm going to hit S, Y, Y, and, or actually that doesn't appear to be the local y-axis, and that's because we have an extra face selected. Okay, we're actually not going to worry about that for the time being. We can adjust it if needed. So I'm going to go ahead and select these areas here. Well, no, I'm going to select the faces. And again, we'll select these ones. Finally, we'll hit X, delete those faces. And then we're going to select this area here. And we want to deselect any of these interior loops. And so we can just Alt-Shift right click on one of the edges between them, and that will remove those from our selection. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and hit E to extrude, right click S and Shift X, scale up just a little bit. Then we'll do it again. About to right there. And then what we want to go ahead and do is on each one of these, we'll go in, we'll add a loop. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and just add one to each one. And then we'll go in and move them all together so that we keep it all nice and consistent. Going back to Vertex Mode. We'll bring it right up to the edge about there. We're going to bring an edge loop to right about there. We can go ahead and delete this edge loop for the time being, that extra one there that we don't need. And looking at this, I'm going to bring this edge out just a little bit more. And what I want to do is find a way to get rid of this extra edge, or this kind of slope right there that we're getting. And there's no real good way to do that. Although actually, that should be there in some form or another. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is we're going to just select these loops. And we're going to go ahead and separate these out again. And this is something that you'll find you have to do fairly often with hard surface modeling like this, is to separate out some of the more troublesome areas in order to get the deformation nice. And really that's not a bad thing. Sometimes it's a matter of personal preference. Sometimes it's just a matter of what works and what doesn't work. And in this case, by separating them out, we'll be able to get a lot more effective mesh. Okay, so I've got this here, and I'm just going to hit Y and split it. And then just to make sure that we're not overlapping in any weird way, I'm going to go ahead and slide it in just a little bit like that. And what that does really is prevents me from flipping the normal, or oops, missed one. It prevents me from removing doubles if I ever do that. And so now what this allows me to do as well is to go ahead and do things like adding in an extra loop right through like this real easily. This I'll just X and Shift S. Slide that up like there. We can go ahead and I want to scale these in. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in 2 edge loops along each one of these. And we're going to need to do something to compensate for this, because you'll notice what happens when we do that is we then make it less round. And so from the side view, after I've got these selected, oops, and I missed 2, we're going to go ahead and hit S and Shift X once more and scale it out until we've basically restored our perfect round. And I have an extra edge in there that I don't need. That doesn't need to be there, nor does that. In fact, what I'll do is I'm going to add in 2 for each one of these. And really what we need to do, that I realized too, that I didn't do before on the other ones, and so I need to step back, is we need to scale these away from the cursor, not from their own individual centers. So now I'll go back through, re-add those edge loops, select all these. This barrel piece is probably actually going to be one of the most difficult things to model in the entirety of the project here, just because of the number of holes in the piece. There we go. That restores it to a circular form. About like that. Looks really good. We're going to go in and we're going to delete each one of these faces. Just like that. And what this also allows us to do then is select each one of these loops. And then we're going to deselect these vertices here and pull this out along the x-axis to get that rounded shape that we really want in there. And then we're going to go ahead and select this interior loop here. We're going to scale towards the cursor, S and Shift X. We're going to take it right in to there. Snap those together. We'll go ahead and do the same thing here. Snap that in. And that looks pretty good. So now we're going to hit E to extrude, and we're going to go ahead and take this back to right there. We'll add in edge loop to there, bring it out. Although actually that's not what we want to do, because then we're covering up our holes. Instead, we want to go ahead and see, this is one of the prime cases where this becomes very difficult. We're going to select this, Shift H, and what we need to do is we're going to go into Edge Mode, select each one of these, fill in the edge, select this, fill the edge, hit Alt H and see, we can go ahead and remove these here, delete those vertices, and we can delete these vertices. There we go. We don't need either of those. My hope is to be able to fill just one of these and then duplicate it over to the others. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select each one of these faces, just like that. Right click, I'm going to hit Shift D, right click, and then rotate this around the cursor, and whoops, rotate around to there, and rotate, and then just snap right to it. And I'm going to rotate around the x-axis, snap to there, W, remove doubles, and it doesn't quite snap. There we go. In Vertex Mode, it snaps perfectly. W, remove doubles, removed all of those just fine and dandy. So now, before removing doubles, I'll go ahead and rotate this around, Shift D, rotate around the x-axis, get it fairly close, rotate, snap, and then we want to go ahead and do this for the other side. There we go. And then what we'll do is we're going to rotate this around again. To right down here. And then again to the other side. Select everything, W, remove all of our doubles. And then I'm going to select these loops. I'm going to hit Shift D, scale, Shift X, snap right to those, select everything, W, remove doubles, and then we can go in here and we're going to select this vertex, then we'll select this vertex and hit W, merge at last. Do the same thing here. And then over here, select everything, Control N, recalculate those normals. And then I want to add in a edge loop to each one of these. So we're going to add in, we're just add in an edge loop to each one of these, and then we'll go ahead and scale them down, which should work beautifully, scaling towards the cursor. Scale, Shift X, slide it in to right about there. That will make it very nice and sharp. Seems I have an extra face in there that I don't want. Somehow got that added in there. So I'll just select each one of these, select the faces, X, delete faces. Okay, now let's hit Control Tab, go back to Vertex Mode, and I want to select, we need to fill in these holes here. And then this will allow me to select this edge, or this edge loop, delete or deselect those edges, hit E to extrude, X, and snap right there. W, remove doubles, Control N just in case, and that gives me one cohesive piece right there. So now what I need to do is on this side, I just want to bring this edge, or I need to actually select this, Shift H, and we need to go ahead and fill these faces right up to here. So I'll select this, and actually I'm going to just select these three vertices, hit E to extrude, take it along the x-axis, snap to there, snap to there. But instead, before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and select all of these. So I can do this very easily by just selecting all that. Then I'll deselect these, and I'll deselect these here, and then I'll hit E to extrude, snap to there, E to extrude, snap to there, and then I'll select everything, W, and remove doubles. And I just need to add in another edge loop right down like that. So one thing you can notice too is how keeping very clean topology that's mostly or almost exclusively quad based allows me to very easily add in these extra edge loops that really become essential to doing this whole thing. I'll select this and hit E to extrude, take it out just a little bit, and then I'll E to extrude again, take it out to about the center. I'm going to hit S, X, or first I'm going to hit comma to scale towards the individual center, then S, X, and 0 to scale to 0, and then I'll extrude it out one more time, snap to there, W, remove doubles, and there we go. That gives me one solid piece. Now on this, you can see that maybe I need to add in, well, let's see, do I? That actually looks pretty good. You know, any other small detail you're never going to notice from the render view. Let's see. I'm going to take each one of these. No, I'm not going to worry about it. Technically, that's not perfectly round in there, but we're not going to worry about it completely, as this isn't actually, I mean, I may be making a dire mistake here, but that's actually larger than the actual barrel of the gun, whereas the barrel of the gun actually comes out from right in here. So let's select these, hit H, and we're going to select this, and hit E to extrude, scale it down, and as I don't know what the actual size is, I'm just going to approximate it, something about like that. Hit E to extrude, we'll scale down just a little bit more, take it in a little bit, and then we'll take this all the way back there. Okay, and as far as most render shots are concerned, that'll be more than adequate for what we want to do. Okay, so we're pretty much drawing in at the end of our time, but let's just go ahead. Oops, I'm going to bring up this other reference here and just kind of take another look at this. And one thing that we forgot, we want to add in this kind of bead here, which we already have, but it's not as profound as I would like. And so currently we have it as a separate seam, where really it should come up to here, be a slightly smaller, and then this piece here, which we are going to actually go ahead and separate out. So I'm going to select this edge loop, hit X, delete edge loop, delete that one. Then we're going to select Oops. We're going to select this one, and we're going to hit V to split it apart, pull it out along the x-axis a little bit. Or actually, no, we're going to delete all these vertices right in here because we want to separate out this piece. I'm going to delete that edge loop, and then I'll select this one. I'm going to hit V to split it, pull it back along the x-axis a little bit. Then we're going to select this one, and looking at this, we're going to go ahead and scale it up a little bit along the Y and the Z axis, because then we want to actually remove this one side here. We also want to make this one side a little bit rounded. So I'm going to pull this along the x-axis. Let's scale this a little bit more up. I'm going to select these two. I'm going to scale down just a little bit. Then we'll add in another edge loop to right there, so that this is rounded. And then we're going to go ahead and take this piece here, take it right up to the surface there. You can remove this edge loop and this edge loop because we actually want this to be rounded. There we go. About like that. Well, maybe we'll scale this one down a little, and then let's go ahead and bring this in a bit more and this in a bit more, about like that. Okay, and now we actually need to cut off this side here. We can see that we're going to need to scale this up a bit more. And maybe we'll scale that in a bit more. And then the way that we're going to do this is, let's hit Shift H to, oops, Alt H. We want to select this whole piece, Shift H, and then from the side view, we're going to go in, and we basically want to add in a cut right through here. So we're going to add in 4 edge loops on either side. We're going to select these. Actually, we're going to select this whole piece. Actually, we're going to hit Alt H just so we can get nice and close. We'll select this one, which is still perfectly circular. Shift S, cursor to selected. Select this one, again, Shift H. And then I want to select these. And we're going to scale it away from the cursor, S, Shift X, scale it out, restore our, as close as we can get to a perfectly circular mesh, which that looks pretty darn close. Okay, that'll be just fine. And then we're going to grab these edges here, hit G, X, or G and Y, snap to right there. You need to pull in a little further and snap to there. Same thing over here. Then we're going to select both of them. And we're going to scale up. We can deselect these center ones here. We're going to scale up along the Z-axis to just about there. We can deselect the outside pieces. And we're going to hit S, Y, and scale out along the Y-axis to be about there, such that it lines up. Okay, and that gives us a nice flat piece. You can see that this piece here and this piece here, go ahead and scale out. We'll just bring it in about like that. You're never going to see the inside there, so it doesn't matter if it's not perfectly circular. And then I feel like maybe I made it a little bit too tall, and so I'm going to select all these. I'm going to hit S, Z, scale along the Z axis, and S, Y to scale it out a little bit to make sure it's circular. And I'm using this ridge here to kind of determine how circular I am, and that looks good. And there we go. Now we'll maybe go ahead and unhide everything, and we could go ahead and select these loops right in here We don't need that one. Or that one for that matter. Oh, yeah, we do. Select these, and then maybe just S and Shift X, scale down just a little bit, and there we go. So now we've created that piece there. We'll select this, make sure that it's hitting the inside here, just scale down like that. Although we want to be sure that we don't scale towards the cursor, we'll just hit S and Shift X, and then scale that down like that. And there we go. So that is creating the barrel for our M4. Looking really good. We can maybe... We don't need that edge loop. No reason for that to be there. But let's see, one thing is if we add in that there, we slide that out, we really don't see hardly any difference whatsoever. And so I'm going to go ahead and just leave that as is, just like that. Although, actually, that actually works really well. Okay, so what I don't like right now is that we have this kind of ridge here that you can see under some lighting. So what I'm going to do, add in 2 edge loops on each one of these. Just like that. Then we're going to select this face, this face, this face, and this face. Then we're just going to hit SX, scale towards the individual center, so comment, then SX, scale them up about like that, and that will just smooth out that face, so now that it looks a lot more rounded. So there we go. Okay, so that is modeling the barrel. So we're going to go ahead and call it quits right now. We're just about to hit an hour. We don't want to get too much longer. I don't want to bore any of you. And so we're going to go ahead and leave it right there, and then we'll come back on the next part and really start working on the exciting parts and really some of the more challenging parts by modeling the body of our rifle.